All right, welcome back. We're going to talk about writing a quadratic equation from a graph. Now, the steps are to find the x-intercepts. We know how to do that. To rewrite as factors, we know how to do that. And to FOIL, we know how to do that. So theoretically, everything we're going to do today is a review. Everything we're going to do today is something that we have done before. So, number one says, write the equation of factors that represent this graph. So over here, we have, this one looks like a positive 3, and this one looks like a negative 4. So maybe x equals negative 4 and x equals 3. And then we need to turn those over here into factors using opposites. So we're going with x plus 4 and x minus 3. And notice there is a little bit of kind of extra stuff hanging out in the front here. We have our y equals. Okay, our goal is kind of like, do you remember y equals mx plus b up there? And we used to build that equation by what's the m, what's the b? Well, we're going to do a very similar thing, except for now instead of y equals mx plus b, which is going to give us a nice straight line, we're going to be trying to figure out the curved parabola shape. Okay, that parabola just means U-shaped. So our goal is to go from this, which is going to work if I go to Desmos and I type this in, y equals parentheses x plus 4 parentheses x minus 3 parentheses. It is going to look a lot like the graph from our piece of paper, right? It's going to look a lot like it. But this isn't necessarily in polynomial form. Polynomial form just meaning when we have the x squareds and the x's and the no x's. And so, in order to kind of make this look a little bit nicer, we're going to FOIL it. Okay? And so a reminder of how foiling works before we FOIL this question. It's when you distribute the x, which is going to give you 2 pieces, and then you distribute the 4, which is going to give you 2 more pieces. And you're going to have 4 pieces total, and the middle 2 are going to combine together. Okay? Foiling, it's going to come back. We're going to use multiplication. Okay. We don't really have room for it on number 1, so let's see how this works on number 2. The x-intercepts for this question, here's our x-axis, and then we have our graph. This is one of those kind of funky ones where it really only touches one time, where it bounces perfectly on the line. Our x-intercept is x equals 1, but we have this x equals 1 twice, because it bounces right on it. It doesn't have any other touches, so we have this 2 times. That means our factors are going to be x minus 1 and x minus 1 again. I want to be super clear. It is not because of this y-axis. It has nothing to do with this y-axis. It is because of this only. Now, what we need to do to finish this question is just FOIL. We want to multiply and get our 4 terms and then combine them together. Let me at least finish the first question. Once we do that, it'll give us the 4 terms, and then we can combine those middle 2 together. So what is x times x? X squared. And because we're doing these questions where we're taking them off a graph and all this stuff, the foiling part is going to be some of the easiest foiling we've ever done, right? I mean, you're going to deal with really small numbers that are probably going to be less than 5, and it should be really straightforward. X times negative 1 is negative 1x, and then we're going to move on to the 1. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x, and negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. So we're pretty good. The last thing we need to do is just combine these middle 2 terms together -1 minus 1 is going to be -2. And the last thing that we're missing is that little y equals mx plus b, the y equals part at the front, just to make it that full equation. Now, before we move on, because essentially we've just finished the notes, do the intercepts, do the factors, do the FOIL, there's nothing else for me to really teach you. I do want to kind of show you how cool this is, how impressive this is. Okay, you guys can see a picture of a curved graph, and entirely in your brain you can say, well, I know the x-intercept and I know what the factors would be, and I know how to FOIL those factors, and I can create this equation from nothing. Just from a picture, your brain can come up with this equation. And it takes a little bit of, maybe some calculator help, but if I type it in, y equals x squared minus 2x plus 1, this is how our graph looks. It's a U-shaped graph that bounces right on 1. I mean, we just came up with this, and that's pretty sweet. That's pretty impressive. So you're definitely actually learning some pretty big math, some pretty, complicated stuff here. So do me a favor, for number 2 or 3, I suppose, try to get the zeros and the factors. It should only take you a second, get the zeros and factors. Let me go ahead and accept this pass. Here you go, Akeem. Make sure you go quickly because I don't want you to miss the notes. So hopefully you figured out there and there are some zeros. So that's working at x equals -3 and x equals -1. And that means our factors should be opposites with no equal signs. X plus 3 and x plus 1. And now FOIL it and get your equation. Now again, when you do these FOILings, they will be some of the easiest FOILings we've done all year. They're going to be small numbers. It's going to be the same pattern. X times x is x squared. X times 1 is 1x. 3 times x is 3x. And 3 times 1 is 3. Now we just need to add the middle two together. X squared plus 1 plus 3 is 4. X is plus 3. And don't forget your y equals. So this is like less than 45 seconds. You can look at a curved shape graph. You can think in your brain, I know the zeros, so I know the factors, and I know how to combine those factors using FOILing, and now I've got the equation from scratch. That's pretty cool. That's pretty impressive. All right, last one. I'm going to give you a little bit of a head start. Try to get your roots. Try to get your factors. Try to FOIL them together. Okay? I think maybe just 1 minute is enough. There you go. There's your 1 minute timer. We're right on time today. Wake up, wake up. All right. Hopefully, you were able to move through this and you saw -1, x equals -1, +3, x equals 3. Get those into factors, x plus 1 and x minus 3, and then FOIL them. Make sure you're taking your negative seriously. X times x is x squared, and x times -3 is -3x. That's going to be 1x and -3. Combine those middle two. -3 plus 1 is going to be -2x's minus 3. And then make sure you have the y equals at the front. Okay, how do we feel about number 4? You had about a minute head start. Did you know how to start? Were you able to keep going and finish? Again, theoretically, there's no new information on this notes at all. We're just combining a couple things together. Before we flip over, and if you already flipped over, it's not a huge deal. I do just want to point out that this paper has x-intercepts, zeros, roots. All of these things are the same. Remember, I'm going to write it one more time. There are x-intercepts, zeros, roots, and there's one more on this list, solutions. And these 4 things are all the same. If you see a root, it just means an x-intercept. If you see a solution, it just means an x-intercept. But factors are opposites. Okay, flipping it over. We got one last one. Here's the last word we haven't used yet, solutions. Let's see how long this question takes us. Let's see, let's get a timer, let's get a stopwatch. A little bit of a glare. There we go. Well, now I can't really write. We'll do it over here. Go! My graph looks like it's here and here. That's going to be x equals -4 and x equals 0. Okay, we've done a couple with these zeros on the warm-up on yesterday's classwork and notes. We're going to make this x plus 4, and then this 0, like we said, we're not going to put x minus 0, we're not going to put x plus 0, and we don't even need parentheses because all we need is x. And we like to put that x first because what we're going to do with this x, do we need to FOIL this x? No, we just need to distribute it. So this is like even easier than just FOILing. All we need to do is x times x, which is x squared, and x times 4, which is 4x. And that's it. There's nothing else to do. There's no FOILing. There's no combining. The 0 questions are actually the easiest questions. X squared plus 4x. Stop. That one took us just over a minute, and that was with some explaining. We didn't have to do the FOILing, but we did something that was a little bit different. And just to prove to you that this works, on Desmos, y equals x squared plus 4x. That is exactly how our graph looks. It crosses -4, it crosses 0. Perfect. All right, this last one down here says, instead of showing you a graph, if a graph had zeros of -3 and 8, write the equation. So start with the zeros. Let's do another little time test and see how long this stuff's taking us. Maybe I'll do it over here. Go. Start with the zeros of x equals -3 and x equals 8. Now we need to do the factors, which are going to be opposites of those. It's going to be x plus 3 and x minus 8. Poor Arkeen wants to come in, but we're doing a timer, you know. After that, we're going to FOIL. So we're going to get x squared minus 8x plus 3x minus 24. And then combine these two together, x squared minus 5x minus 24. Let's put a little y equals in front. And there we go. That's the answer. Get the roots, get the factors. Oh, sorry about that. We were doing at the timed equation. I knew it would be less than a minute. I appreciate you waiting. So there we go. We've worked through this equation. We've gotten all the way here. Is this the equation of a graph with zeros at -3 and 8? Y equals x squared minus 5x minus 24. -3, positive 8. This is a graph with zeros at -3 and positive 8. That also means an easy way to check your answers is just type your answer into Desmos, and you should be crossing at -3 and 8. We are crossing at -3 and 8, so we are happy. Okay, no new material on here. Get your solutions, get your factors, get your equations. Keep these vocab words in your mind. And the last thing I'll say is that this is called quadratics. And quadratics are x squared U shapes. Okay? If you see a U shape, it's a quadratic. If you see an x squared, it's a quadratic. So that's what that word means. If you see it around, don't be scared by it. It's right there. All right, that's it for today.